Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, a motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news, specializing in track days, club racing, and great entertainment. We truly...
Do most of it?
No.
Okay.
Most of it. We do it all. We truly do it all. We do everything. All of it. Everything. More than just a podcast. We are brought to you this week by JKMoto Entertainment, which is your one-stop shop for all your track day and club racing questions and answers. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at JKMoto Entertainment. Like I said, a lot more than just a podcast. I'm going to give my quick little warning that I sometimes give, which is that this could be anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, and I wouldn't want to sit in front of a computer, just watch it, or have it up on my phone the whole time. So if you don't feel like watching, that's great. If you're here on YouTube, go click the link down in the description to our RSS feed, which will open you up to whatever podcast platform you listen on. If you're listening and you haven't checked out the YouTube channel yet, go check it out. JKMoto Entertainment. Tons of great stuff on there, I think, at least. I mean, I might be a little biased.
Only a little bit, though.
Just a little biased. Just a tiny bit. But we are back for round... We messed up last week, by the way.
It was round 5.
It was round 5, 100%.
Oh,
Somehow
okay.
I counted and I was like, no, it's 4. It was definitely 5.
All right, so now we're back for round 6.
7, 8, 4.
Round 32 it is. And with that, the season's done. Yeah,
it's over. It might be at this point. It was a pretty telling round.
That, the points cap, that's not over yet. It's not over yet.
No, but there were definitely some big moves that didn't need to happen, but did happen and made it a little interesting. We had a lot to talk about. Anyway, round 6, MotoGP in France. Once again, another record turnout. They keep having record after record every year over in France for record turnouts, which is awesome. Great for them. Glad to hear it. But
I mean, sport's growing. That's what that means.
That's true, at least in France.
We got to get some of that action here.
We do. Which, contrary to popular opinion, maybe the new owners, Liberty Media or whatever, will help out with that. I don't know. We're not going to talk about Liberty Media. I don't want the drama. But anyway, go ahead and stick around for the intro, and for the rest of the episode after the intro, and we'll talk about MotoGP Round 6 in France. My first track day, I got the pictures back, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. Drug your knee on the ground at 100 miles an hour?
You can drag your knee at 100 miles an hour.
On that note, we're back from the intro, back with our non-sponsor this week. May or may not give you wings, maybe, I don't know. Not sponsored, but keeping us alive. And we can't not talk about this real quick.
The Aprilia RSV4 1100 factory.
Yeah, totally.
It's good. It must be some new fairings, right?
That's what. Yeah, it's just a graphics.
A couple new fairings.
Graphics. Yeah. It's like that dude that had the V4. Have you seen that V4S? The dude put R3 graphics on.
Yeah, is that the same thing?
Yeah. It's some Aprilia R1.
The Panigale R3.
That's what actually. There's the R, and that's SV4 1100, and it says factory underneath.
Definitely not Yamaha R1, right?
No, not even a little bit.
Couldn't be.
Yeah, hey, if you're new to the channel, this is called Stable B. This is where we do a lot of amazing things. Go check out the channel trailer, and I'll talk about Stable B a little bit in there. But we've been filming the podcast here for a little while now. It's pretty great. I like the atmosphere. We'll get some better mics at some point so we don't have so much echo. There's a lot of echo in here, I noticed. But anyway, what you're used to seeing in the background here is a motorcycle that I may or may not be racing this coming season, pending me showing up and racing it. What is not there right now is that motorcycle. That is moved. It is still in Stable B. Stable B is a little bigger. Yeah, it's right that there. Way. we're staring at it now. It's a little bigger than it normally looks for the podcast. And this is actually a former Moto America bike. There's a little sticker. I think it's on the other side. But
no, it's right here. Frame number, yep, there's a number right there, 2016 Moto America.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, back in 2016, one Matthew Schultz, first ever bike that he raced in Stock 1000 happened to be this exact motorcycle with a different set of fairings, but same motorcycle. So kind of cool to have that in the garage. Since then, it has gone through a couple different hands and has ended up here in Stable B with us, and we will be doing some work on it. So, once again, subscribe to the channel, and you can follow along with the Matthew Schultz, former Moto America R1, owned by Beatonator now, rebuild project thing.
In progress.
Yeah, and we're also, I'll end up going through a little bit of history on it, kind of talking about it, doing a whole intro to the bike later on. So just a little shout out, or what do they call it? Foreshadowing.
Stay tuned for the lore drop.
Yeah, foreshadowing for what will be coming on the channel here soon. But enough of that. We've got to get into MotoGP.
There's a lot to get into. Where do you want to start?
Well, we should probably knock out fantasy.
Okay, that's fair.
If we don't, we'll forget, and yeah, it won't be good. Fantasy for this week. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, you didn't do the worst.
That's true.
So there's always that.
That's true. Yeah. That's
Half
true.
your team didn't crash out.
This other guy from USA did the worst this week, which is okay. Anyway, our weekly point winner. So the winner for the week, weekly point winner. Where'd it go? Oh, last. There it is. I was looking at the average, which is very different.
I did that last week.
Is going to be, drum roll, JKMoto.
He's crushing it this season. They're crushing it this season.
Crushing it, but he's only in third place. So I will say not very far behind. You know, first place is at 1061, second place 1047, third place 1019.
Yeah, they're close.
So they're all pretty tight up there, kind of like our current leaders in MotoGP. Kind of wild. I think they all have very similar teams. But anyway, 184.5 points. He has only used 1 out of the 3 boosts. So, no, sorry, has used 2 out of the 3 boosts, has 1 left.
Interesting. This early 2 boosts down?
Keep that in mind.
There might be hope for me yet.
I mean, there is a certain person that is pretty easy to put a boost on.
Well, that's true.
So, anyway, but yeah, there is still hope. If you're still holding on to some boosts out there, you can absolutely do that. Anyway, JKMoto, please hit us up on Instagram at JKMoto Podcast. Send me a DM or on Facebook. Either way, we'll get you a prize sent over for your weekly point winning. Just a reminder, there will be a bigger prize at the end of the season for the total overall point winner, who currently, sitting in first, is Shifty from Canada, like I said, at 1061, followed by Cam Head at 1047 and JKMoto at 1019. Right behind him, down in fourth, we have Sad Satellite at 941 and myself at 936.5, and then
you don't gotta say
we'll stop there.
You just stop there. It's fine. It's fine.
There are some people further back in the points back there, but yeah, I mean to start out with MotoGP, can we just talk about the current standings? I just want to
the current standing, the current new upstanding. Sure.
Yeah.
For the championship.
Yeah, we'll cover top 5 because it's actually kind of interesting. Top 6, 7.
Okay.
8.
Okay.
Top 8.
Top 10 it is.
I'm sorry, I just kept looking. I was like, whoa. All right. We're going to cover the standings real quick. If you guys are following MotoGP, you probably already know because they go over them every week, but I just want to talk about them real quick and talk about the point gap. So we have Marc Marquez sitting in first place at 171.
No surprise there.
No surprise. Everyone's kind of been tracking that. Cool. A whopping 22 points behind him. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah.
32?
Yeah, that's his brother.
No, 22. 250, 70. Yep. Is Alex Marquez. Okay, cool. We saw that. Another 29 points behind him is Pecco Bagnaia.
Yep.
And then it's flopping all the way down. Those guys are all over 100, 171, 149, and 120. All the way down at 85 points is Morbidelli. Didn't see that coming this year, but he's there.
Yep.
And right behind him is DG and Antonio.
So VR46 holding out 4 and 5 in the constructors.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So we got top 4 Ducatis. Surprising, not really cool. But right behind DG and Antonio, which this is the big surprise, which is why I wanted to go to at least 6th, is Zarco.
Zarco, yeah.
Zarco.
It's actually both of them. Both of the Frenchmen.
Yes, both the Frenchmen, yeah, absolutely, which is why I then said 7 and then I said 8 because there's a rookie down in 8th. But specifically between 5 and 6, there are only 2 points. And between 4 and 5, there's only 11 points. So realistically, between a Honda and being 4th in the championship, there's only 13 points right now. With a Frenchman on a satellite Honda. And that is wild. That's why I wanted to cover that. Part of that definitely came from this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's where you would like to start.
We could start. We could start there. So for a second week in a row, I was excited to see Fabio Quartararo qualified on pole.
He did.
Really excited to see where that goes, and then it really didn't go anywhere, unfortunately.
It didn't. No. So we were in France, Le Mans. Lamar, whatever, however you say that, I don't know. I never know. Because Lamar just feels weird. Le Mans is like weird. Le Mans is obviously wrong. What is it?
I don't know. You said it different enough times. Now I don't know. Why would you say it? Put in the
Us
comments
Americans
below.
over here never know it. Everyone pronounces it wrong. Le
Lemons.
Man.
Lamar.
Le Mans, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, iconic racetrack over there. It's great. I love that one. It's kind of nuts, man. You look at the layout, and it is actually like super
It's
simple.
flowy, curvy too. When they showed like the track preview.
Yeah, but then there's like those S's, and the S's get people every time. But yeah, Q2 won in practice. I think it was in practice actually. We had Marc Marquez set a lap record, all-time lap record, which didn't get beat the rest of the weekend. I believe because we started running into, well, no, there wasn't any rain in qualifying. Maybe there was a little bit. I don't remember. I wasn't able to watch it. But we ran into rain in the races. And, I mean, you're not going to set an all-time lap record in a race anyway. But in Q2, Fabio Quartararo took out a first, followed by Marc, followed by Alex, followed by Aldeguer, and then Vinales, and then Bagnaia. And then all the way down in 11th was Zarco. So Zarco made it to Q2 and qualified 11th. Not bad, but our two Frenchmen are in Q2 and Quartararo sitting on pole. So France is super happy. We got a record-breaking crowd. They're up there. They're happy. It's awesome. Insert the sprint.
Yeah, I wanted a podium for Quartararo so bad. And then like you see him get passed, then you see him get passed again, then you see him get passed again. When Marc passed, I was like, all right, sweet. I can live with this, whatever. Alex gets him, I'm like, he's still on podium, it's fine. And then Aldeguer, the rookie, comes over. I was like, all right, listen here.
Stop messing with my boy.
You put that back. You give that place back right now, so help me.
It was, yeah. I don't disagree. It was a little sad. I mean, I kind of saw it coming. The Marc thing, I think we all saw it coming, right?
Yeah.
Marc wants it. And the issue is that, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but Quartararo's not in championship running.
No.
This year.
Not even close.
Yeah. He's not in the running. Marc is. Alex is.
Like we said, P7.
Yeah, 7. So
I'm like red, blue, red, yellow, green, blue.
Yep. Blue.
Yeah.
You know, it puts Marc in a weird spot because, like, Marc is also just, he's a racer, he's a winner, he's got to win, right? So we expect that out of him, which was interesting on Sunday, and we'll get into Sunday later. But we come into Saturday, and Marc has set an all-time lap record, but wasn't able to follow that up in qualifying, for whatever reason, is now second on pole, or on the grid, right? Comes in second in the grid, and is behind a Frenchman on his home turf, who obviously wants this win. But he's also holding off his brother behind him, who is actually 1 point ahead of him in the championship standings right now.
It's like he's picking his battles. Like, that's the real battle he has to do is control Marc. He even mentioned alluded to something like that in the post-race interview on Sunday.
Yeah.
He was like, guy's too far ahead of me. I got to control Marc. That's the championship points we're fighting with right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially
right.
after a couple Sundays of losing two Sundays.
Which was super smart move. We'll just keep talking about Marc for a little bit. On Sunday, I think he played that very, very well. Saturday, sprint day, went and won a sprint, set a new record. Sprints are relatively new, so all the records I kind of just laugh at because I'm like, whoa, yeah, crazy.
All-time new record. Yeah, it's been like 36 minutes we've had this, man. Come on.
Yeah, we haven't been doing this for that long. Why? Like, who cares? But anyway, first person to win 6 sprints in a row. Maybe he'll just keep it going and win every single one this year. That's arguably, for most people.
That would make it a tough act to follow.
That's what I'm saying, and that's also how Jorge Martin won the championship last year, was with sprint wins, because this one made Bagnaia all mad about it. Anyway.
Well, Bagnaia can't play about sprint wins this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then, I mean, that's the man in red, right? Marquez ran a great sprint, won it, cool, good to go. In the Sunday, he did what I think he needed to do. We'll get to more about Sunday later. Let's get through a few of the riders first, and we can talk about Sunday as a whole.
All right, well, move on the list. Alex Marquez, doing Alex Marquez things, solid performance. P2, came in, held it down, finished the race, got the points.
Did.
Cinched it up.
In the sprint.
Yep. And then Aldeguer got his first podium for the sprint.
He did.
The rookie.
He did indeed, which is awesome. Yeah, I mean, Grassini team this weekend on Saturday.
Solid performance.
On Saturday.
2-3.
Yep, they were doing great, and they were happy about it. Aldeguer's, I think, girlfriend was sitting. They keep showing his girlfriend more than any other girlfriend this season, it seems like. Anyway, showed her. She was all nervous. And I was talking to my wife, and I was talking about, like, it still amazes me how much excitement the entire paddock gets over a single race win.
Yes.
Like,
especially if it's a team that's like starved for wins.
Yeah, so that I kind of understand. Like Honda, LCR Honda on Sunday, crazy, right? That's
I forgot the team principals or the head guy's name. Was it Lucio? I forget. But whatever his name was, him. I was anxious watching it, and I was watching him getting more anxious, being anxious, and I was getting more anxious
because of him.
The one part where he points to the board, he was like.
Yeah. Yeah, he's out there on the wall.
I'm like watching him. I'm like, yes. I'm like, Zarco, calm down. We need to bring this home. You've got like 20 seconds. Calm down.
Man, that man did not. He did not calm down.
Because he did that at like a 12-second gap. Sorry to hop on to Sunday. He did it like a 12-second gap, and then by the end of the race, it was more than that. He did not calm down.
He did not. And apparently, he would. Dude, he did make me nervous. At the end, though, the last lap, I was, sorry, we're gonna jump all around today. It was a crazy weekend. I apologize, but the last lap, this man could have wrecked the bike, picked it up, and probably still finished in first.
It's kind of like when Alex crashed out, got back up, still in P6, because those gaps were gapping.
They were huge.
We'll talk about what kind of fed into that.
Yeah, that's the Sunday we'll get into, is just the drama. But
it was just so much.
Yeah, Alex had a great Saturday. Grassini had a great Saturday. Aldeguer up on the podium. Let me pull up his sprint results just so I'm not going so super crazy.
Yeah, after Aldeguer was Quartararo in fourth, he just missed out on the podium. It broke my heart.
Yeah, it was it was sad.
But Marquez only finished half second behind Marquez, though. His big brother.
It's true. Yeah, it was definitely a tighter weekend, and that's what makes Sunday so interesting to me, is that Alex. I've been thinking for probably a couple weeks now, or a couple of rounds now, that realistically, they're saying the only person that could beat Marc Marquez is Marc Marquez.
But it's starting to look more and more like Alex could give him some decent competition under certain conditions.
Yes, but also if Alex can just keep the bike up,
yes,
it's over.
Yeah.
Because if Alex keeps the bike up every round, which now we're back into kind of playtime where we can mess around and make some more mistakes from different people, but I had this weird feeling that Alex was just going to bring home a absolutely perfect season, a perfect P2 season,
and then get the championship.
Smoke the championship, because everyone else was playing around with first DNFs. So, but
just think, if he didn't crash out and he had finished, granted, we're doing the whole make-believe if he had finished P2, the points gap between him and Marquez would be almost negligible going in weekend to weekend. And if Marc had crashed out a couple more times, it'd been easily Alex.
Yeah,
that's how he got the 1 point lead in the first place.
Yep, absolutely. Right, he's just holding back P2.
With the occasional sprinkle of a little first place in a GP weekend.
Yeah, well, because Marc crashed.
Hey, I call it like I see it.
But I agree. He's been having a great season. Sunday was unfortunate, and then he like you said, he gets back in sixth, and then comes right back around, and I believe in the same spot. That wreck though, that second wreck? Did you see that one?
The high side?
The straight up and down, and the bike just see ya.
It was like the bike has left the chat.
There had to be something on the track there.
Yeah.
Because the rain is,
because you watched the replay, like.
Yeah, it was just the rain is always interesting, right? I'm not great in the rain. I don't like it. The guys that are good in the rain, they're crazy. They're awesome. Rain is often very much about like consistency, but also
like feel and how you can manage your grip and like.
Yeah, and then
how aggressive can you be while still being conservative to an extent? It's like really weird. It's like a fine line.
Yeah.
And as the track dries up, like how much more you can get away with.
Yeah, the kind of those alternate conditions. That's what makes it super crazy. A lot of times in the super wet, everyone's pretty good, but in these like
the mixed
it's
conditions,
wet, it's drying. It's wet, it's drying.
These turns have more water than these turns. You cannot take the normal line through this turn. You take this other line for these reasons.
I did notice no one was out on the curbing though.
We're not doing that again. We've all learned our lesson.
I noticed very specifically there was actually a large gap between a certain person and curbing on the track.
We're not. What was that? Coda?
Yeah.
Hit that curbing with still little pockets of moisture in it.
Yep, and it just.
Because the problem is like depending on the curbing, like the ideal line sometimes bleeds into the curbing just a little bit.
All of them, 100%. They're on the curbing all the time.
Yeah.
Those curbings are different pavement, different surface, and paint. And as soon as paint gets wet, if you ride motorcycles, which I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast or you watch this channel, you ride motorcycles, you know.
You're talking about they're just here for the dazzling commentary, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the great entertainment part.
Yeah.
My bad. But if you ride at all, you know that, man, there's sometimes I've been out on a racetrack in the rain, and the scariest part is coming over the line to enter the pit.
Yeah.
Like the ridge had a pretty long one, and every once in a while you'd cross over it, and I did that in the rain a couple times, and the bike's, it gives you a quick little...
It's like, hey,
there's no grip here.
Don't do that.
So I don't,
Not having the 4 tires to rely on is like, oh yes, it's just these 2 in line.
Yeah, and sometimes when they're in line, in Alex's case, you still can't rely on them. It was wild. If you didn't see that wreck or you didn't catch it well, you were, I don't know, making a cheese sandwich or something or whatever.
Also for that RP Bagnaia for that sprint race.
Yeah, the sprint. We'll get to Bagnaia here in a minute. I got some words. But yeah, Alex, the second wreck killed me. The first one, I was like, okay, it's tough because he's on my fantasy. I actually kind of, I'm proud of him this year. Not necessarily an Alex Marquez fan, but I'm proud of him. He's doing great.
I am a believer. I am a fan of Alex Marquez. I've really enjoyed watching him this season. Mm-hmm. I've low-key been a fan ever since that one clip. I'm pretty sure it's him doing that whole leaned over. Drag. Feels the weather.
One clip on Instagram cannot decide a racer's fate in your head.
He's not my favorite racer, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm new to MotoGP. I don't know anything. That's one of the clips that got me into watching MotoGP is seeing that. It's like, the Jorge Martin just like this by the pavement, like those two.
See, my favorite Jorge Martin
I knew
video,
those before I knew who these people were.
Yeah.
Or like any of the teams that I knew those clips, and I was like, "Ew, that's pretty cool."
That's fair. I'll give you that. My favorite Jorge Martin video is definitely him in shorts and a t-shirt, laying in his corner. He just lays down. He's like, yeah, that'll work.
They got to rename that corner the Jorge Martin corner.
The Jorge Martin bed.
Going into Jorge Martin.
Jorge Martin pit stop for a nap or something. I don't know. Oh, man. It's nuts. But, yeah, it was rough to see the first wreck. But at the same time, I'm like, perfect. That's what my boy needed, right? I mean, I've got a 93 flag up on the wall. I'm a Marc fan.
Hey, I appreciate the loyalty, the honesty.
Right.
You're not faltering.
I haven't jumped the bandwagon yet. But then to see the second one, how hard it was, and two, that I watched the replay and that bike just decided to not be up and down anymore, which I'm sure you hit a random spot on the track where there's a decent amount of rubber piled up or something, or the opposite, I don't know. It was super wet. It breaks. Who knows?
A lot of factors.
Yeah, I haven't done any follow-up on it, but it really just, from an very outside perspective, it looked like he came in, he started braking for the corner, and the bike just said, see ya, and flopped him into the air. So he didn't get up from that, had a DNF on Sunday, lost a lot of points there. That's kind of where this big gap opened up. Now, the second part of the big gap opening up, and the next rider I want to talk about is Pecco Bagnaia.
Was not a good weekend for him.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He qualified, what did I say, down in 6th in the sprint. Well, he made it all in one lap. And, shout out to him for Sunday because he did actually run back over the bike. But I believe on Saturday he, in fact, did not. And it just cracked me up because I've literally talked about this so many times, and I'm going to say it again. There are some riders that put the bike down and recognize the importance of trying to
get some amount of points.
Get something. And you never know what can happen. There could always be a red flag with a restart where, you're still at the back of the grid, but
your back of the grid isn't 20 seconds from the lead. It's you're at the back of the grid.
Or we had a rainy weekend. There could be a flag-to-flag moment, and you could be the guy. There is a point on getting back on the bike and riding your best to finish it. And also, in my opinion, you kind of owe it to the sponsors because a rider of Pecco's caliber, doesn't matter where he is on the grid. He's a factory rider. He's going to get camera time, right? Like Ducati and those sponsors pay him money to get camera time. That's what it's all about. So they can get their name out there. Turns out if he wrecks bad and then he gets back in it, he's going to get camera time.
True.
Even if he's 20 seconds off the lead, he's going to get camera time on that bike.
I also personally believe that Pecco is of the caliber that he could, depending on the crash, I believe 100% wholeheartedly that he could claw himself back in some amount of points. And the narrative that creates from the underdog, fall behind, trying to work hard, get back, that narrative is something everyone, haters and fans, can get behind. Mm-hmm. Haters will see because, I don't want to get back into points. Fans love it because I want to see him get back into points. Either way, that's screen time.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I'm saying, right? So, like, you owe it to your sponsors, at
Like,
least.
what was it, last week? Marc Marquez, and he got back up in the points? Was that last week?
It was. Yep. He wrecked out, got back up in the points, and made it so, like, instead of having a 5-6 point lead, Alex only had a 1 point lead because Marc made it far enough into the points. And people were wrecking out, too. You never know how many other people are going to wreck out where you might not even have to work for it.
Especially in the mixed condition. Well, he did get back up on Sunday, but like stuff like that, mixed condition, you never know what happens.
Absolutely. So
that was a dog pile.
Yeah. Sunday.
Going into turn one.
Sunday. Good old Sunday. But anyway, that was him on Saturday. Now, turn it around on Sunday. Shout out to him. He finally did it. He ran over the bike, picked it up, and actually rode. And despite the mixed conditions and everything else, I think he went in for a new bike twice.
He wasn't the only one.
No.
There was so much shenanigans between swapping from a slick bike to a rain bike or a rain bike to a slick bike, starting the race, getting the double long lap penalty. Halfway through the race, like, actually, I think I will have that other bike, please.
Yeah, I don't know.
Please and thank you.
So Bagnaia, like, because it was open pit the whole day, I guess, I don't know. He went in after his wreck, got a new bike, and then came back in later for another new bike. I think on rain tires, because I think he went and traded for a new bike on slicks.
Okay.
And came back in again for rains. I don't know. I just saw him in the pits multiple times. But anyway, he did finish the race. So shout out to him for finally doing it. However, he finished right outside the points in 16th.
Oh.
In 16th. So all that stuff I say about you could get in the points, and especially like of all the days.
Look, I think he could have gotten the points if it wasn't for all the bike switching. But that being said, other people were switching bikes as well. So it's like.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like I'm glad he did it, and he should have done it because one more person could have wrecked out. Like we saw, like I was not holding my breath for Marc not making a mistake out there, or Zarco, or literally anyone else. Like
when I saw the gap opening up between Zarco and Marc, in my head I thought Zarco's pushing, but I also think that Marc Marquez is like bring it home, get the points back. Especially after he realized that Alex wrecked out. It's like, okay, there's no...
After that point, absolutely.
There's no reason
there was
to
a
push.
point, though, where in the beginning, during the double long lap penalty thing and everything else, that he was about to be overtaken by Alex.
Yeah.
And then somehow flipped it around. I don't know if that was a switch in his head where he finally was like, all right, now I got to just go. I don't know if that had to do with the fact, because the other thing, too, is that
I was loving all of it. I was like,
it was great. Yeah, don't get me wrong.
It was like I was lining him up. I was like, hold up. Wait, is what I think is happening?
No, it's not supposed to happen. That's not
or is he just playing with him? Like, what's going on? What's going on here?
The other crazy part, though, too, is like we saw all these tire options. Part of that was also medium and soft rain tires, which we definitely saw play.
Yeah, like for a while, it was like the 1, 2, 3 had one tire combination, and the 4, 5, 6 had the other combination. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oof.
Well, and the issue is that you go out on, and I might be getting my compounds wrong, so I apologize for that. I don't know rain tires that well, and compounds and temperatures always throw me off. But different compounds want different temperatures.
Yes.
So in the rain, it is almost even more important, but almost even not even almost. It is way more difficult because we saw this race go from no rain to a little bit of rain to less rain to a lot of rain and back to a little bit of rain. So what we saw was this track basically dry, start to get wet, dry a little bit, and then get really wet. In that point where it's really wet, you have this, we'll call it a medium tire that maybe it was a soft that they were running, that wants this warm temperature, and now all of a sudden the track's so wet you can't actually get it warm. Because even a rain tire, you still have to warm it up, right? You still put warmers on it, and while you're out there riding, you still want it warm. You just don't want it to overheat, which is why they suck in the dry and everything. Anyway, it's a whole bunch of rain tire science.
It wears out, you lose your sipes.
Yeah, so they get stupid slippery because it's a completely different rubber compound.
Yep. So now you see the water, you can't sipe the water away. Congratulations, you're running unsticky slicks.
Yeah, which is
the worst kind.
Actually slick.
Yeah.
not what you want.
Unironically, slick with no grip.
Yeah. Slick tires. Slick tires. Slick. But anyway, so we saw some weird things with that, and I don't know if that was what was plaguing Marc that day on Sunday, but it gave that kind of. It was kind of fun though. It was fun. Him and Alex battling.
I loved this weekend. RP Quartararo, but other than that, I love this weekend.
The craziest part to me was I cannot imagine racing that race and not being like actually anyone. I don't care who you are. Zarco, the only man that it made sense for. I think the weekend made sense for, or the race anyway on Sunday. Did he go out on rains?
He didn't change his bike.
Right. He got in the wreck and He sidelined the wreck.
He didn't.
He was affected by the wreck.
He was affected by the wreck. People are sliding out. He's like, let me go into the gravel over here. Came back on track, gained a few positions, everybody wrecking out, and then he just put his head down and he got it from there.
Yeah, and then he was already on wets, which maybe that's what helped him out so much, is maybe he wore those tires down in the beginning. Like, I don't know what Zarco was thinking, but anyway, we had like rain in the sighting lap.
Strategy.
And then the rain stopped. So you had a whole bunch of people that were on rain tires, and they took off from the warm-up. On the warm-up lap, they took off from
on the siding lap. Yeah, on the siding lap, they decided what they want. They said the pit lanes were closed.
Yep.
And then half the grid came into the pit lane. So they started.
Well, they reopened it.
But then no, they let them come in, but it was closed. That's why they all got the double long lap penalty, because the pit lane was officially closed. But they came in and swapped their bikes anyway. So on the formation / warm-up lap, they all left from the pits. They grid up from there, but when they grid up, they had their double long lap, and it was up to them to serve when they wanted to serve it. But some people did that and still changed bikes.
Most of them.
Yeah, changed bikes back.
Yeah, they went back to rain, because they come out on rain. It's dry. Oh shoot, we can't be on rains. The majority of the grid runs into the pits, gets a dry bike ready to go. Leaves from the pits, like you said, goes out, has a double long lap penalty. There were like 5 or 6 people in Zarco that stayed out on rains and said whatever. They made the right call, 100%. Made the right call. It might have screwed them over later, but whatever. But they made the right call. And Zarco somehow
they profited.
Yeah, Zarco somehow fixed that perfectly. I don't know what he was doing with tires that day, but it was perfect. But anyway, then they get back out there. They start doing double long lap penalties, and I'd say about halfway through, most of them doing their double long laps, all of a sudden it starts raining, and that's where we saw Quartararo. And I forget who was with him, right behind him. Oh, man.
I mean, initial crash into turn 1?
Yeah, in the race.
Was that Mir and Bastianini?
No, so not the initial, sorry. I'm talking about when the rain started coming back down, Quartararo wrecked out. The initial crash in turn 1 was Bastianini wrecking into Bagnaia and someone else. Yeah. And we can talk about Bastianini sucking again later.
Yeah, I want to be in Bastianini's corner, but this was not a good weekend for him. and I have nothing to defend him with. Yeah. I still like him, though. It was just a bad weekend. We all have bad weekends.
Sure.
And I'm not gonna unpack it at all.
Okay.
Because his performance as of late does not support my narrative. So I choose to ignore it.
It's not the right story.
Yeah.
We'll wait till the right story comes along.
Yeah, and then I'll sing his praises.
Sure. All right. Sounds great. I'll stand by. But
2 years
we
later.
had this double long lap penalty stuff going on. Most people had served him. Marc had, I guess, missed one, so he still had one to do.
It was also when that what was coming down, people were like blowing that corner, and like they were taking double long, like an extra long lap penalty.
Alex took an extra one because he blew the corner and just happened to basically. It wasn't actually a long lap.
He was in between the long lap zone and the.
He went wide in the long lap penalty corner, which was like whatever.
Funny.
Yeah. Which, of all the tracks to do a double long lap at, that long lap penalty does not seem near as bad. Because it's just the same corner.
Just
a little bit
wider.
Longer. Yeah, a little bit longer turn. So, but anyway, we started seeing the rain come back down. And this sparks half the grid that was on slicks decides to go back in and get their rain bikes now. Aldeguer stayed out there for an extra lap. I thought for sure he was going down, being a rookie and all. Didn't go down.
Did not.
Came in, got a rain bike, cool, and gets out there and starts racing again. And then we just saw some of the weirdest racing I have ever seen in my life, which was the MotoGP of France 2025.
Had to be there.
Had to be there. Hashtag wet.
I wish I watched it live, like with other people, so that we could all just like be there together, seeing all the madness that was unfolded in real time.
It was so the biggest thing that I was thinking about was like, we had people getting lapped out there. We had people coming in at the most random. Like usually when there's rain, 20 of the 25 riders at least come in and get their bikes changed.
Yeah, it was staggered.
And then whatever. It was so random. And in that, you had a couple people that were already on rains, a couple people that were on their third bike, and a couple people that were doing long lap penalties ×2. Yep. Like it was.
Yeah. Because somebody got an extra double long lap penalty.
It was Bastianini. Bastianini got a double long lap penalty, not because of the start, but because he took out 2 other riders in the wreck in turn 1. It was absolute madness. And what I can't imagine is like you are racing at the premier, like the top the top of the top in the world.
The premier class.
Yeah, the premier motorcycle racing class, the best of the best in the world. Generally, when you're out there on the racetrack, you don't see gaps that big. You don't see riders getting lapped.
Yeah, testament to that gap was like Alex Marquez crashed out, got on his bike, got back in the race, and was in 6th place.
Yeah.
And there was an appreciable gap ahead of him and behind him.
Yeah.
To the next group of riders.
And there weren't that many groups either. Yeah. The only grouping was around Aldeguer as he was taking down the entire freaking field. Yeah. But
once again, shout out to him.
Can you imagine being at that level and having like track day traffic?
It's the rain, man.
But
it's the rain.
But it wasn't just the rain. It was all this random. I'm gonna swap my bike now. I'm not going to. I'm gonna take my long lap. I'm gonna swap my bike again. I'm gonna, whatever. Anyway, the moral of the story is, if you think it might rain, stick to your gut. Especially if you don't have any play in the World Championship, Zarco, because I can only imagine he was like, "What's the worst that happens? I do 10 laps on these rain tires. It doesn't work for me. I trade bikes and take a 15th. Okay. Best case scenario, it rains. It did. No double long lap penalty.
A win is a win.
No slick tires. No trading bikes. Just me and the racetrack. And then at the end, like I said, had some perfect tire setup where he was just banging lap times. Because we came in, I think it was lap 15 or 16. He was at a 10 to 12 second lead. And there's 25 laps. At that point, yeah. Dude's out on the sidewall, literally hanging out on the track. And it's just like, hey, slow it down. Behind you is Marc Marquez, who's great, but you've got time. He would need a half a second.
I remember the commenters talking about how Marc Marquez was a couple tenths faster than Johan Zarco was, but Zarco had 8 seconds to play with at the time, and that lead only grew. And even Marquez talks about it when he realized that he had enough race left to catch up to him. So he put his head down, knocked out a few bangers of laps with a couple of tenths, and then the gap was only bigger. And he was like, "Oh, I got to control Alex. He's there. I got to control Alex. I'm not catching Juan Zarco." So that is a testament to how much he was cooking.
Yeah, absolutely. Zarco was going nuts. Shout out to Marc for actually reeling it in and just saying, "Okay, let me just play my game," because he played it right.
Yeah.
Let him go win.
Marquez has to bring this bike in today.
Yeah.
And it was him.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Zarco absolutely just, there's no way he didn't look over and say, "What? You want me to slow down right now? Are you kidding me? Home turf? No. What's the worst that happens? I put the bike down. Who cares?" And
that French crowd, they were loving it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They do talk about, and I don't remember. Zarco's such a weird name because he was on a Pramac bike. Yeah, he was on the Pramac bike with Martin for a while.
For Modelli?
Yep. And he, anyway, all weekend they kept talking about how good of a rain rider he is. And I couldn't remember the rain races that he did well in. I think there was one where he did very well. But it's very funny because they said the same thing about Oliveira. Miguel Oliveira, they were amazing rain rider. He did win some rain races back in the day or do very well in them for what they expected. Right? You get these the rain always brings out these random people. You're like, what?
I love watching motorsports in the rain because somebody said the rain is the great equalizer.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you definitely see that across all forms of motorsports.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's what we saw this weekend a little bit, but because of the weird conditions,
the double long laps and the bike swapping didn't really lend to that, but it like you said, it led to some wacky scenarios and conditions, but also. So for KTM, Maverick Vinales was really consistent this weekend. Came in 5th, I think, in both.
Yeah,
the sprint and the race.
I just checked 5th in the race. I'll check the sprint real quick just to fact check. Yep.
He was.
And 5th qualifying. Wow. That
5.55.
That's impressive on Sunday.
Yeah.
To say the least.
So he did get passed by Acosta for 4th in the race. Shout outs to Acosta. But the fact that, for these last couple weekends, Vinales has been the lead KTM bike, satellite or factory, period.
I think...
Acosta's been up there, yes, but Maverick Vinales has been consistent.
So...
These last couple weekends. I'm curious to see, where we go with KTM as a whole and Maverick moving forward, because it's still only a couple weekends.
It'll be interesting. Maverick is an interesting character, in my opinion, because he got in some trouble
with back in the Yamaha days.
Yep, with Yamaha. He had a factory Yamaha ride.
So One of the things when I first started getting into MotoGP, I watched a program called There Can Only Be One, which kind of gave like the race recap or the story recap of like the previous season leading up to it. And so I watched like the season where Jorge Martin lost out to Bagnaia for 2 years in a row. I saw those recaps.
Yep.
And I think one of those, Maverick was still with Yamaha at the time before he went to not that. It was before that? Mm-hmm. Okay, then I watched that season as well.
It was a while ago. And I guess if you were watching the recap, I want to say it was right before Bagnaia went to... Yeah, because he spent 2 years with Aprilia. So it was right before that.
Yeah.
Interesting story, because this man enters MotoGP on Suzuki. And then...
That was before my time. Suzuki.
Yeah, before my time even, right? Wins a race with Suzuki, goes to Yamaha. Wins some races with Yamaha. In fact, when he was with Yamaha, it was actually him and Rossi together on Yamaha prior to Fabio ever getting into factory.
Huh.
That's where Vinales was. So in Vinales, I very specifically remember I hated him because he was a contender against Marquez before Ducati got good. Right, like real good. So he was kind of in that battle during the Rossi fallout. Rossi fallout happens, and I don't mean fallout like it. I mean fallout because his last couple of years were not that great. He didn't have the best performance out there. He's still Rossi and here and there, but especially his last season, I felt real bad. I think a lot of that was just Yamaha not having the bike anymore, and maybe he was just done. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Rossi. I hate him.
Interesting.
I'm just kidding. Kind of. I do. Details. We're not getting into that. Anyway.
Interesting. All right. Strong opinions. All right.
Yeah. But Maverick's on Yamaha, and then some thing happens, says some words. Yamaha says, no, you're out. And it was like borderline MotoGP saying, no, you're out, if I remember right. And fact check me, please, audience. Throw it down in the comments. If you got the story, I want to hear about it because I don't remember exactly. And I haven't done the research in a long time. This is just coming to my head now. But something happens. Yamaha says, you're out of here. And he says, okay, whoa, holy cow. Okay. And I thought he was done. I thought he was done for good. I didn't think he was that great. I thought he was done for good. Insert Aprilia is like, hey, we got a spot open.
Yeah, because it was wasn't it him and Aleix, right, for a bit?
It was. So, and that didn't open up till the next season, but they said, hey, we got a spot open next season, factory ride, we'll pay you good money, we think you're a good rider, come ride with us. Now, the interesting part about him going with Aleix, who had been at Aprilia for a minute, was Aleix was also on a Suzuki with him back in the day. So these are two teammates that have ridden together before, two Spaniards, now on Aprilias, on a factory ride. Again, wins a race with Aprilia.
Looks like we're getting the band back together.
Oh yeah. Man wins a race with Aprilia. So now, he's the first guy to ever win a race on three
manufacturers,
different manufacturers, which is kind of nuts. And I believe it was either
no
him or
Ducati inflation here.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that is what is very interesting to me is he's the only rider that's stayed away from Ducati and still been consistently, once he gets a bike, well, very inconsistently, once he gets a bike figured out, pretty good.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest issue with him is his inconsistency, and I think that's why he's never been an actual championship contender. He's had the equipment under him before. He can't ever
stringing all like put it all together.
Yeah, every time. Yeah. There are definitely weekends where this man comes out and he does it all great. He's got the package underneath him. He's got it in his head. He's ready to go, and he does it. And we saw it, last year in Coda. We've seen it this year.
Went from the Top Gun to the Batman.
Yep. What's interesting is that it does feel like he is picking up the KTM much quicker, and he is meshing with the KTM very well, and especially with where the rest of the KTMs are on the field. That's what surprised me. You've got Pedro Acosta, who's now been on that bike for 2 years. You've got Brad Binder, who's been on that bike since the creation.
Yeah.
And then Bastianini, we're not getting into that, but now we've got Maverick, and he is consistently, like you mentioned, the best operating KTM rider first year on the bike. So, I don't know. I before the season started, and I don't want to be this guy that's just like, oh, I know everything, but I expected him to win a race this year prior to the season starting. Season started, KTMs were doing terrible. Him, Bastianini, all of them, they were all doing terrible, and I said, okay, there's no way. If KTM doesn't even have the bike figured out, then Maverick's not going to make it. He is not consistent enough to put it all together with a bike that
with a bike or the subpar bike. Yeah,
and that was my
especially
opinion.
in a field being dominated by Ducatis at the time. With six Ducatis in the grid at the point?
Yeah.
Damn near locking out 1 through 6.
Yeah, basically with Aldeguer kind of floating around, maybe in 6th, maybe not, and that's what I expected, and that's what I feel like we saw for about the first 2 rounds. But then Maverick kind of started stepping into that bike, and I don't think KTM has really made any big changes. I don't think the bike has gotten better.
It's just that he's just adapting to it.
Yeah, and adapting.
He understands it now
very quickly. And what'll be very interesting to me is I still don't think that bike has it. I am slowly turning my thoughts on whether or not Maverick will be able to get the win this year and keep that record going.
Just to get the first man to win on 4 manufacturers.
Well,
I want that for him.
No, yeah, it'd be awesome, and it's gonna be very hard to beat. That's what's cool. The 3 is already hard to beat. If he could add a 4th on top of it, it's like, okay, here we go. But what does that like? I struggle with it because I don't want to say that Maverick is good, but if all the other KTM's are terrible, and then Maverick brings home a win.
It's the opposite of Ducati inflation. It's KTM deflation.
Is it just Maverick inconsistency inflation?
No, it's like...
This bike looks good on this weekend because Maverick... They will say it. If the KTM wins a race with Maverick on the bike...
They'll say it's Maverick making the bike look good, not...
No, they'll talk about how KTM has it. They figured something out. They will praise Maverick, absolutely. I promise. They always do. They praise the rider, and it's great. The rider does most of the work. Great.
But if Maverick brings it home, they'll say KTM figured it out.
Yeah, they will talk.
Even if it's Maverick,
and not
a bunch of gaps, and then the rest of KTM in the back where they normally are.
I guarantee there will be comments about how KTM must have figured something out and has a bike that's ready to go.
Well, also there is an amount of like riders set up specific to the rider, not a whole bunch because it's still like a mostly stock factory bike. Oh man, it's interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
It's weird. I would love to see Maverick of all the riders. I would love to see Maverick on a GP24 right now.
And then we'd know for sure because he hasn't gone to Ducati at all.
If you put Maverick Vinales on Pecco's bike, it would be a very different season. Maybe, but the issue with Maverick Vinales is the maybe part.
Yeah,
because he's
got to get through the inconsistencies first.
Inconsistent, but my question with that, because I do believe it is mostly Maverick being inconsistent. I do, but at the same time, there's a second thought in my head that wants to say maybe the bikes are just super inconsistent, and he just happens to fault to it, and he's actually
the bikes in the KTM or bikes in all the bikes in general.
All the bikes he's ridden. The Ducati being the one that's not inconsistent.
That also being the bike he hasn't ridden yet.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let us know in the comments. Maverick Vinales, yay, nay, who knows?
Better than Bastianini.
Yes. I am not a big Bastianini fan. There's a certain person that I know that is. Not a huge fan, so they're not going to be mad. But I'm not a big Bastianini fan anymore. Not that I ever really was.
Solo your stock in Bastianini?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I mean, I sold all of it last year when he left Ducati. I was like, yeah, that's out. That's gone. Kind of like...
I wash my hands of you.
Kind of like Jorge Martin, which was a good call.
It's not like he wanted to leave. They just said, we got the best there is.
That's true.
To ever do it.
That's true. Which surprised a lot of people and made a lot of people very mad. And
I mean, I think for Ducati though, like not to get on the Marquez bandwagon, like he's a good rider, but like that is such a no-brainer.
Kind of, except that without Marc being on that factory ride, let's say Marc went to Aprilia and Jorge was still with the well, that doesn't work because Jorge would have gone and taken a factory ride most likely. It would have never been Bastianini. But let's say that Jorge and Marc both went to Aprilia because, for whatever reason, right? Say Ducati was just like, no, we're keeping Bastianini. You guys can go somewhere else. And Jorge and Marc both go to Aprilia, which Aprilia obviously doesn't necessarily have it this year, maybe. We haven't seen Jorge at his peak, and we won't, and that sucks. Maybe at the end of the season we'll finally start to see it, but I don't know. Holding out for next season, Aprilia and Jorge having a good package. Bezzecchi, I just think was a... I think Bezzecchi was a little bit of Ducati inflation back in the day. We're not seeing it anymore. I do believe that if you had put these other two very, very good riders on Aprilia, and even if Aprilia had the package, that Bagnaia would still be winning.
Because of the Ducati.
Because Marc wouldn't be there taking the wins from him. I think that has had a huge play on his mental riding and everything, and that is mostly what we're seeing, honestly. I think that Pecco has always shown me that he is kind of an emotional rider, and I think the emotions are playing really, really big this year.
Fair enough, but even last year when he was going up against Jorge Martin back and forth, every time something bad happened, he would lock in, put his head down, and then prove to you why he's the robot.
He would, because he was the leader of the team. He had the entire garage behind him. He was the king. He was the star. He was the man in red. He was the guy.
Now he's just a man in red, not the man in red.
He is not Ducati's crown anymore. He's not the star.
That's gonna weigh heavy on him because he's got to know if he doesn't start performing
I don't think they'll get rid of him at this point. Plus, he's got a contract for next year already, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they're gonna get rid of him, but at first, if he just does subpar this season, does subpar next season, you're only as good as your last. It's like most sports, especially where you have a limited amount of seats per team, is what of a sport where it's what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Where you could be a multi-world champion, but if you have a couple bad seasons in a row, the teams will start looking at other, especially the contracts single year, multi-year. Multi just means usually 2 year, sometimes 3, sometimes 4,
sometimes 5.
Yeah, but you see all the time in other sports like F1, bring it back up. But if you have this many championships, and I'm the team boss, and recently you have not been performing to the level of lesser teams have, it starts to look really bad. It's what am I paying all this money for? Yeah. I don't care how many championships you've won in the past. That's you did it for you. What can you win for me now?
Exactly. No, and I agree. Which is kind of why we're sad to see Jorge go to Aprilia.
Yeah.
People were sad to see Luca Marini go to Honda. Actually, people thought that was going to be great for him because he got a factory ride.
Not all factories are created equal. All right, let's stop playing.
Yeah.
Let's stop playing games here.
I saw that and I was like, great for him, probably for the paycheck. Terrible for him for his future in motorcycle racing.
I'll take a satellite Ducati than
That being said, a relatively new rider on a factory Honda has kept the bike up more often than the ex-world champion who's been there longer. So I don't know.
What are you gonna do?
Wild. But I don't even remember what started all that.
Maverick Vinales.
Yeah. Bastianini, Pecco. I do think that Pecco would be holding it down, or at least giving a really much better fight if Marc wasn't stealing
his wins, the spotlight,
the spotlight, the garage. Yeah. I think that's had a huge way on Pecco's outcomes this year.
Yeah, because he's in third.
Yeah, big time. Pretty far back. This weekend did not help him at all. That's what I'm saying. This weekend opened up a gap in the top 3 that puts Marc in a much more
dominating spot.
Yeah. So Marc, this weekend did exactly what he needed to do.
A few more solid performances, he can run away with it.
100%. It'll be interesting. I think Marc's probably got a couple more wrecks going to happen this year, maybe.
No doubt.
For some reason, I thought that Alex was just going to bring home a perfect season. Yesterday, not quite.
Hey, well,
flukes happen. I'm not mad. Yeah. It happens. I'm not trying to crash talk or whatever. But
it balances out for his P1. Yeah. That's not how that works at all.
No,
it's not even a balancing feature, but still.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't do that. But it just kind of it brings the championship back to this. Okay, we're back to normal. It used to be this crazy. Everyone was wickedly close.
I love that because when it comes down to the last race, it's bated breath. Who's going to be the champion?
Which is great. I'm hoping that's how it goes for audience retention purposes. Yeah. However, for Marc Marquez fan purposes, have to say that I'm hoping for more of what we saw this weekend. So.
I think of the top 3, I think my favorite is objectively Alex because I like to see what he's doing. I like to see the story, and because my man's Fabio Quartararo and Jorge Martin are not up there.
They're definitely not.
Yeah, not even close.
Definitely not. We'll keep an eye out on the news for Jorge. Figure out when he is coming back, what that's going to look like. The biggest thing with Jorge, honestly, is I just hope he takes his time, and when he comes back, he doesn't. I don't this is going to sound weird. I don't care that he takes his time to recover off the track. I care that he takes his time when he gets back on the track. And he has the mental fortitude to... Because in the past, Jorge has been a little bit greedy, iffy, pushes a little too hard sometimes. That's why the last 2 years were so close between the two of them. Arguably why he lost the first season.
Yeah, he would get greedy and crash out.
He... It lacks the racing maturity for a championship winner, if you will. If he comes back and maintains that lack of maturity, it could be very dangerous, and that's not what I want to see at all. I want to see him come back and actually race. And I really, honestly, as a Marc Marquez fan, this is hard to say, but I think in 2027 when we get the new rules, which we're going to keep talking about more and more as it comes up, I think that Marc is kind of going to
Get out of the sport.
I don't know if he will personally, but I think his time will be gone at that point. I think his time will be over. The Marc era will be done, and we'll be moving into a new era. I feel like Jorge has a good opportunity to enter the new era as a top contender, right? We're going to obviously get some rookies coming in. We're going to get some manufacturers that might pop out of nowhere and have it made. There's random KTMs out in the world that are already kind of 850 cc's and being tested. So,
and there was rumors or talks of BMW also joining MotoGP at some point, possibly too, right?
It's a little more than a rumor. Yep, it has been. BMW is trying to figure out how to do it. They've said we are going to do it. We're going to enter in 2027 with the rules. And Top Rack, Razid
Top Rack long name.
Yeah, Top Rack long name has mentioned he wants to be there sooner than later.
I've seen some clips of that guy. That guy is wicked.
Yeah.
I've watched some of his braking leg clips, and I'm like, man. I'm about to watch World Superbike.
It's too much. It's too much. Top Rack is something else. That man can, he can stop a bike with back tire all the way in the air across the finish line and still win the race. Yeah. He's intense. Yeah. He might enter MotoGP. He's a little old. I think that the 2027
but he could also enter MotoGP with BMW, just help him build their program.
And that's like most people's predictions. There's been a lot of talk. A lot of people are expecting that because he's been on the BMW now. Obviously, good rider, good caliper rider. The crazy part about
hands down
the MotoGP rule change, which, like I said, we're gonna talk about this a lot more as it comes up and comes closer, is that the rule changes are pretty large. And what we've seen is that the street bike, and i.e. the rest of the world's racing bikes that aren't these prototype bikes from MotoGP, have adopted a lot of that MotoGP technology. We've got all these crazy electronics and all of this crazy winglet stuff going on some of these road bikes. The winglets are going to change. The electronics are going to change. The ride height devices aren't going to be allowed anymore. It's a lot more than just we're going down to 850 cc's.
So will it be? So I understand MotoGP is essentially the prototype bikes. So you tell me these prototype bikes would become more closely resembling what the street bikes would be?
So the prototype
not like
bikes,
a street bike, but they will be more in vein of a production. I don't even want to say that. You know what I'm trying to get at, though, right?
I think I know where you're going. Is that they're almost going to take a step back and come back towards the street rather than the street headed towards them.
Yeah.
I think that is kind of what we will see, especially because we're 2 years out, and in that time, these manufacturers are going to use all of the technology that they've tested and created and put as much of it as they can into their road bikes, because that's still what they're racing Moto America, World Superbike, British Superbike, Australian
Because even
Superbike,
even Moto America, they're moving towards. How do I phrase this? They're moving. From my view, it looks like they're moving toward bikes that are more in line with production models available today. Example would be you see more V2s in the 600 class, and you're starting to see R9s, I think, take over where the R6 used to be.
Okay, so the Super Sport class, absolutely. And Moto America is a bad example to look at. You're much better off looking at
World
Superbike, British Superbike, and all of them. But in Moto America, specifically in the Super Sport class, absolutely, yeah. The R6 has been outdated forever. The R7 might have supposed to have been replaced that, but it was a twin, so it won. But the R6 has been competing against V2s and 750s that have been tuned down to be homologated with the R6s. But everything you race in Moto America, World Superbike, British, Australian, all those has to be homologated. I.e., even the World Superbike superbikes still have to resemble and have a lot of the same parts as the street bike produced from the factory. So these factories, it is good for them to produce a bike that would be sold to us that is very competitive out on the racetrack, right? So when they're over in MotoGP and they get all this testing, they're going to put that into their street bikes because they also want to win in World Superbike, and they want to. It is much easier to sell a motorcycle that wins on Sunday than to sell a motorcycle that has the same name that wins on Sunday.
Fair enough.
If that makes sense. If I see that Top Rack is out on this BMW M1000 RR with these giant wings, I'm going to go want to buy that bike. But if I see that Pecco Bagnaia is on a GP25 with 50 billion wings, and I go to the Ducati shop and there's a V4S with 2 wings coming out the side.
Best I can do. Two wings, best I can do.
Yeah, I'm like, well, what am I not getting here? So
the sauce.
all of that stuff that we use in MotoGP is good for the factories to bring down to their other bikes. They've tested the technology. Can we put it into a street bike and whatever else? The weird part now is that, like I said, MotoGP is almost taking a step back. The factories, I think, maybe, I don't know, manufacturers will still continue to go up. The weird spot for me, what I haven't figured out yet, is that we're taking a step back on all this technology, but we're also taking a step down on engine size. So are we going to see leader bikes actually completely disappear? Or is World Superbike and all the manufacturers going to just
maintain that?
Stick with leader bikes forever?
They're iconic.
They are. This could be the end.
That might be hyperbolic.
It's not there yet, but it's definitely possible.
I don't think leader bikes will go away. I think they might get diminished, but I don't think they'll ever go away. There's just something visceral about leader bikes, and people want the sauce.
They used to.
There are people who's like, oh man, I don't know dirt bikes, or I've never ridden a bike in my life. What bike do you want to get? M1 S1000 RR R1. We have R1 at home.
That is true. Those people are actually way more few and far between than you would think. Most people, when they go out and they're like, yep, I'm ready to start riding a motorcycle. Most people, in fact, actually most people that I talk to, you mention a leader bike, and they're like, whoa, absolutely not.
I don't know. Maybe just social media's got me messed up. But like a lot of people, when they are like, I want to get a bike, in my experience, I think some people want, it's like they get under the impression like, hey, I need to keep up with my friends, and my friends have big bikes. I would get a big bike, and whatever happens, and sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't, fortunately. But like the average person starting, I feel like, at least that I would talk to, like was not interested in getting an R3.
Interesting. I do know a lot of people like that. I think that the bike market has done very well to playing to the average consumer.
Like for example, like the R7 gets shit. Like when the R7 first came out, it got shit on because it wasn't the old R7 and it wasn't faster than an R6, so it got shit on. But like it sold like hotcakes. Granted.
Yeah, everyone bought it. R660, huge.
Yeah.
R9.
But before that, was there, it was like, why get a 650 when you could just get a 1000?
But people like the
ZX-10R.
Nah. People like the controllable. Everyone wants the best of all worlds, which is why we're seeing things like the Z900, the MT-09, the MT-07. Those sell way more than anything else in the world.
That is true.
The naked
now that
bikes,
that category is being made,
the naked bikes that are in between 600s and 1000s, and they have the torque, and they're great around town, and they're more upright, and they're comfortable. We're seeing those sell like crazy.
Yeah.
So from a manufacturer standpoint, the best thing you could do, Yamaha is doing it, is take the bike you already have, put race fairings on it. They've done it twice now. It's done great. The R7, the R9, they are killing that field. They came out with MT-07, MT-09. The crowd loved it. The crowd said, can we get this in race bike fashion, please? And they said,
yeah,
yes. Here's some clip-ons. Here's some race fairings. Should we retune it? Nah.
Fair enough.
Well, what about the R9? Do you want to retune that? Nah. Give it to them. They can tune it if they want to, and they will. And that's exactly what I think that is the future. That's what we're going to see. The issue is that not many other manufacturers are hitting that as much. Kawasaki is. They got their Z650 and their Z900, and I would expect to see a ZX9R here soon, honestly. But Kawasaki's weird because they came out with this ZX4RRRRR, and they've got 95 different million ninjas.
I low-key want a ZX4RR.
They've got a Ninja 250, 300, 400, 500, 600, 650, 636.
All right, to be fair, I don't think they still make the I might be wrong, but I don't think they still make the 250s and the 300. Like it's the way their sport bike market is set up is like their entry platform is the 400, which sells really well. Then you have like the next step up, also an entry bike, arguably maybe not Ninja 650, and then in the sportier kind of go fast boy lifestyle, you have the ZX6Rs and the ZX10Rs for the leader bikes. Mm-hmm. You still have like the Ninja 1000 variation flick, but I get that's full blown more sport touring version.
I would not be surprised if in the next 2 years the ZX6 is gone and we have a ZX9.
That is the longest running. I think it's the only current. No, it's not. You still get the Honda, right?
Gixxer 600.
True.
will be around.
I guess just Yamaha stopped making the 600.
Yeah.
Like, well, they didn't stop. They just made it, track only, and you can still put lights on it and make it street legal.
Sure.
I'm not sure why I want to do that. Keep it for the track. Let her sing.
With the R1 suspension. That was the other thing that changed on that. They got rid of the R6 suspension. They're just like, here you go, race bike. To keep it homologated, which was pointless because then they came out with the R9, which is in the same class.
It doesn't think the R7 is going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting very off topic.
Maybe their bikes are going away.
It is about time we close up.
Wait.
We'll leave.
No rider of the week?
Did you have a rider for the week?
John Zarco.
I had the same rider.
It was going to be Fabio Quartararo until he wrecked that.
I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, "There's no way."
And if it wasn't John Zarco, low key, it was going to be Aldeguer. I was very double podium. Shout outs, much respect.
Shout outs, yeah. I was thinking about rider of the week. We also are running low on time, so we're kind of already past our marker. We'll hit you up with the rider of the week next round. Next round, just for your guys' information, is going to be in. I actually just needed to check for myself. I'd say it's for your information, but Tissot Grand Prix of the United Kingdom will be over in Great Britain.
Oh, Silverstone? That track's iconic.
It is an iconic track. That'll be in 2 weeks. 12 plus 14. Yep.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So we'll see you guys in Stable B in 2 weeks after watching Silverstone. And we will come back with a rider of the weekend. Hopefully there's a little bit different story. This week was kind of difficult. We had the same rider. That was the majority of the reason why we didn't do it. But you can expect that, and we'll probably hit it up a little bit earlier in the podcast episode. In the meantime, please chew on. Are leader bikes going to go away? Will we see a ZX9? Will it be a ZX9 or a ZX9R?
R.
And what is the future of MotoGP going to mean for our current rider lineup? Those are the questions we'll leave you with for this week. We thank you all for watching and or listening. Once again, please give us a subscribe on YouTube. Go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and also click the, what do you do for Spotify? Is it follow? Is it iHeartRadio? It's like whatever podcast platform you're listening on, there's a button. Press the button that says that you want to keep listening to this one.
Yeah.
Press the button.
More.
Click the button, and we will keep producing. If we don't see the button clicks, we can't produce. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Button clicks will feed us.
Feed us with the clicks.
Ah, yes. We'll go strong with every click.
I will adjust my preload. Anyway, we'll leave you on that note. Thank you guys once again. We'll see you all in the next episode. Have you ever drug your knee on the ground at 100 miles an hour?